Hey there, we are Aron and Janet. If it's your first time here, thanks for joining us. In the spring of 2021, we ordered a brand new sailboat, and we have been waiting almost 1 year for it to be delivered. In this episode, we invite you to sit in on our planning meeting with Norton Yachts in Deltaville. We review the details and timing of when we expect to take delivery of our brand new Jeanneau Sun Odyssey 440. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, then please subscribe to join us on our adventures.
Yeah, so we just want to go through all of the bits and pieces as the boat comes in, at what points we need input from you guys, additional stuff you think of, potentially want for the boat. It's just getting to be time to kind of start thinking a little bit more seriously now that the boat is...
Is it on schedule?
Well, so yes, the build is on schedule. Full disclosure, they're having some problems with the engines, but your boat may or may not be involved in that, and we're trying to find out. It's various horsepower engines. I think you have the 57.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that may or may not be involved.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a Yamar issue, not a Jeanneau issue.
So the sailboat's coming out of
France.
France.
Yep. The boat will be out of the factory.
Oh, and then shipping to here.
Yeah, and then shipping to here.
Yeah.
So will we know, so when it comes, where does it come?
It comes into Baltimore, and then we schedule a truck to, in theory, be underneath the boat. They're literally lifting it off the boat, and they would prefer to just drop it right onto the truck. If not, they set it to the side, and we schedule trucking on the boat.
And they drive it down here?
Mm-hmm.
So we could actually go up.
Can we follow it? Make a video?
I can just see the trucker calling me now. The trucker's like, man, somebody follow me. They usually call us when they pick up the boat. When they pick up the boat, we can say, hey, they're picking up the boat right now. You can drive down here in about an hour or two.
Cool.
That being said, so that's one of the things that we want to get out of this, is just like an understanding of what that schedule may look like. But then
we got the order finalized, and then I just wanted to make sure that on all of the things that we had discussed, you guys ordered, or we collectively ordered, the offshore pack, and we're going to upgrade you to the ocean pack, which is radar AIS and the Pro chart plotters. Is that correct?
radar AIS, yes.
Yeah. And so the name you're working on settling on.
Yeah.
We're pretty settled on
To be
it.
disclosed at a later date. Full understanding. We have an understanding of what we need to do to commission your boat and upgrade the electronics and do all of that stuff. Regardless of the fact that it's only in the downwind pack, we add a Windex and a Windex light so that you can see the Windex at night. I also always put in a spinnaker halyard just because it's easier to do it at the time.
Like, one of the things that I know that we might entertain in the future is either cell service, or Wi-Fi.
Yep. So Baylor's actually got some great recommendations on that, and I don't want to step in front of him on that because he's put a number of those into other people's boats, and I think he's got a lot of experience with what works and what doesn't.
So I know it comes with the single anchor, and I don't know if we need to upgrade that or not.
The answer is on the Chesapeake Bay, no. If you plan on going to the Bahamas at some point, I would consider a second anchor that you can store in your garage. You guys are getting the garage, right?
Yep.
You might want to go to something a little bit bigger because you're going to have high winds more consistently in a place like that. Here, you pretty much drop it in the mud and it, back down on it and it sticks.
Right. And then you wanted to talk about bottom paint.
That was the top of my list.
You want to talk about the color of the bottom paint.
Well, yes. Do we get to pick the color of the bottom paint?
It always does. So the answer is yes, you can do whatever you want. Our suggestion in the Chesapeake Bay is blue or black.
I think more importantly is which bottom paint to actually use. So
I can just tell you what actually works versus everybody trying different things. And again, it's very location specific.
Yeah.
What we have found is what we do right now, which is a hard ablative. So it means it will come off, but it's pretty hard. It works great. So as long as you're using your boat, which you guys do, you're not going to have a problem anywhere. And I can tell you this, from the Bahamas to Maine. because we have boats that have and are spending their time in those locations, and they're 100% happy with it. Like, as long as they're moving their boats, they're not having to send divers down. Like, you know, they'll jump down and maybe clean up their cutlass bearing strut and their prop and this, that, and the other thing. But we put the barrier coat on simply because it's epoxy based, and so when we paint the boat with the barrier coat and an hour later you come back and you tie that first coat of bottom paint to it, it hardens almost like epoxy. So now you've got a coat of paint tied to a barrier coat tied to the hull.
So if we were actually to go through and see that gray, then we know that we made it through the bottom coat.
Yes, correct.
Cover loft is smoke. It's this color, and then it's going to have the black trim.
You guys want to smoke boot stripe too?
Oh, can we change the boot stripe?
Sure.
Yeah, if we can do the boot stripe and the gray, and then we'll do the bottom paint black.
Yeah, we can do that. I'm pretty darn sure. So they've got a set of davits basically.
We buy a TV, but it's hardwired for a TV. We just buy whatever TV that we want.
Correct. Yep.
The other thing that I know we went back and forth on, though, was the rub rail.
I think I was able to order it with the rub rail from the factory, and I think the decision was made in time for us to just make it, and we did it. Yeah, there were a bunch of last minute things that I was like, can we? And she said yes, and I said, okay, go ahead and do it. Go ahead and do it.
Just the panic.
And now you get what you get, and you don't get upset.
So here's the way to look at it. People buy boats all the time that they did not order from the factory, and they just do it themselves.
Right. And best to try and get it the way that you want it. But you know, if you regret a decision, don't hesitate to say, hey, can we undo this and redo this, and what would it cost to do that? Because sometimes it's expensive and sometimes it's not.
Yeah. The boat comes in on the truck. We'll nail down the date. How long did you say you guys need?
About 4 weeks.
4 weeks.
Yep. You know, everything's a range, right? You know, I mean, assuming the boat comes out of the factory, gets an engine, gets on a ship in a reasonable period of time.
So when it ships, do they say we're shipping it today, and then you know it's X amount of days?
Yep. They'll give us a shipping confirmation that it is. They'll only give it to us once it's on the ship and the ship has left. So they might take it to the ship and it sits on the ship for 2 weeks, but we won't know that. We will know when the ship leaves there and it has a arrival date in Baltimore.
You're anticipating the ship date to be sometime in the middle of February.
No, we're anticipating the exit from the factory to be around February 15th, I believe it is. You guys are week 6, right?
It was.
Yeah.
Exit from the factory there.
Yes. Perfect would be it exits the factory with everything it needs. They back a truck up to it. They take that truck, they take it to a ship, then they throw it on the ship, and the ship leaves 5 minutes later, and it arrives in Baltimore in 2 weeks after that. Nobody's ever had that. That's just not part of the. You know, it usually takes them time to arrange trucking, and then the ship is waiting for whatever.
But do they know who we are?
Who?
Have you told them who we are?
The shipping people or Jeanneau? Jeanneau knows who you are. I can show you a piece of paper with your name on it from Jeanneau.
Just as anxious as the next person.
Yeah, no, for sure. And then it gets here. The good news is you guys are on the front end of a lot of boats coming this direction, being one of the first 2 or 3 boats that come in, and then there's an avalanche after that. So
the other question, and this kind of goes into the transactional part of it, right? So the boat's going to come in. You need your 4 weeks or however long, right, to do the commissioning. When's closing?
Closing is any time up to the day before we deliver you the boat. Okay. So we'll get through all the process. All of that will become more and more clear as we're not going to be comfortable closing on the boat before we're 100% comfortable delivering the boat to you. Okay. Right.
But during that 4 weeks, we can come out.
Yeah, of course.
Look at everything. We'll just put a tent.
We charge you per hour that you're here in our way while we're trying to commission it.
Basically, if you want to help, it'll take twice as long and cost you twice.
Right.
As
long. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So the reality is that the crunch period is putting on the bottom, building the rig, and getting the rig on the boat. but a very extensive and thorough checklist of making sure everything's working the way that it should. Once the boat goes in the water, fire up the engine, fire up the generator, make sure everything's running correctly, making sure that the rig is tuned, that the boom is in the correct position and that's where I need to coordinate with Coverloft. He can make adjustments up to a certain point,
right,
and then he's locked in, and I'm also locked in by whatever decision he makes as to where I can set the boom height. This boat does sail with the use of the vang more than any other boat because you don't have a traveler, right? So therefore that translates to I use my vang more often than not. Like most people who have a vang and they're like, what's that thing? That's cute. It holds up the boom when you're not sailing, so it doesn't hit you in the head. This you will actually use when you're trying to shape the sail, either going upwind, downwind, so on and so forth. You will play with it. It's so much easier to use than a traveler that's got.
It's a lot of load on a traveler.
It's a lot of load on a
Okay.
It's a lot of load. It's a lot of stuff to maintain. It if it gets any corrosion on it, might not move. It's you need winches on both sides. Blah 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 blah. It kind of goes on and on. Yeah. Look forward to it. Sounds good. We will let you know the minute we have confirmation in regard to leaving factory, shipping, arrival here, so on and so forth.
Okay.
And tracking on the AIS for the ship coming over.
The name of the ship, the AIS number.
And the captain's name.
And the captain's name, because we're going to call them.
And cell phone number.
All right.
Perfect.
Thank you.
All right.
All right.